Bob Marley, who I hope most of the students know, and I know the adults in the room know, the great musician, once said, "You never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have." Today's featured guest understands that, has lived this sentiment throughout her life, and more recently, the last 5 years. Whether illness, disaster, or death of a loved one, most of us has gone through at least one trauma in our life. These traumas can cause post-traumatic stress disorder, prolonged grief, and deep and long-lasting depression. Today, you will hear Cambodian Princess Soma Norodom share a very personal, life-changing part of her journey, one that she has not shared previously except for those that she is absolutely the closest to. In 2018, Soma went through tragedy and heartache that resulted in post-traumatic stress disorder, and facing this challenge head-on has caused her to build upon her resilience and her forward healing momentum, and from surviving to the hope of thriving. As a result, she is here with us today to share her story. I'm pleased, oh Soma, I know you're taking a picture. You ready, Soma? Okay, I would be pleased to introduce a special guest and a very good friend of mine, Soma Norodom.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. We had some last minute stragglers, so I had to get the table. But thank you for coming. And you guys hear me? Okay. Thank you for coming now. And I know you've already acknowledged the people that have played a big role in my life. And they're actually sitting at the VIP table. So I know that wasn't introduced, but I can pretty much introduce them so you guys understand they're a big part of my life from the past and also the present. So we have Mr. Alan Cate, who's a professor at accounting, but he's also the president of the Quarterback Club of Fresno State, which I'm a member of, so proud of it. Alan? And then we have Mr. Gerald and Miss Nanette Lyles. They used to originally own Pelco. Pelco was bought out. Of course, you guys heard of the Lyles Center for Innovation Entrepreneurship. So the Lyles, thank you for coming out. And then we have Mr. Danny Kim. He's a police sergeant, Fresno police sergeant. He's also the creator of the Cambodian night market, which also I'm on the board, and I try to promote you guys. I always tell you guys the first Friday of the month, come out there, support our community, support the Cambodian community. So he's an organizer, but also he is the president of the United Khmer Cultural Preservation, which is an organization for the Khmer dancers here in Fresno. And July 7th, we're having a fundraiser to raise money for the organization. So Mr. Danny Kim. Great. Then we have Ms. Sherry Cruz, who is actually the Director of Public Relations and Special Events for the Fresno Center. And I just want to say the Fresno Center is important. It's important for a lot of people here, not just refugees, immigrants, but also the privilege that they come out and they help you, not only filling out paperwork for citizenship and helping you find homes and getting your test, your TB shot, your vaccination, but also because my dad was one of the founding fathers of the Cambodian community of Fresno in 1987. This is what the Fresno Center has done now. Combine all the communities, not just Southeast Asian communities, all the communities together, and it's the Fresno Center. So thank you for coming out, Sherry. And of course, we have to leave Mr. Terry Skoda, who is the Chief Advancement Officer, who actually came from New York. So you guys know there's a new vibe now with the Fresno Chaffee Zoo, and then a new exhibit called the Kingdoms of Asia. Well, they're responsible for it. And can I say when the grand opening is for the Kingdoms of Asia or not yet? June 3rd. So of course, Westcare gets VIP. But yeah, and after that, the public be open. It's the first one ever to display the Kingdoms of Asia, it's exhibit for Southeast Asia. So you're going to have not just the animals, but they have a cafe, which I love this part. It's Asian food, the cafe. But I'm also going to be, my story's going to be told in the exhibit, along with Danny Kim and also the president of the Fresno Center. Mr. Pao Yang. Our stories will be told building the community from the ground up, coming here as refugees. So that's what we will start off with. So I just want to thank you, VIP, yes, but also I have to thank my current employer, West Care. Okay, so there was actually 10 that could not come because I work in the 24-hour facility of drug and alcohol, and they couldn't come because because most of West Care is here, they had to shut down the facility and they couldn't. And I was told that because all the directors and managers are here, if you do show up and you call in sick, you're going to be in trouble because of So thank you to you guys for taking the day off, and thank you for coming out for lunch. So thank you again. And most of them don't know my story just because I tell people. But my first job, I have to tell you, is Fresno EOC. So when I came back to Fresno last year, I applied everywhere. Nobody wanted to hire me because I was in Georgia. And I majored in mass communication journalism, so I can write, I can do PR, do all that. But I kind of wanted to go back into public service because I wanted to follow my father's legacy in helping the underprivileged, the refugees, the immigrants, those who needed help, because that's what my father did. And so Fresno EOC took a chance on me and said, we're going to hire you, and you're going to be on the outreach team, and you're going to help the homeless population. So they're here, Latasha and Crystal. They hired me, thanks God. But then guess what? My PTSD started. I could not drive around the client and couldn't go on the freeway. So that leads to, I'll talk about that later. But then Fresno OEC contracted me to work at the Poverello House because they had the best outreach team. And they're here, the outreach team. So they're the one that trained me. And I remember my first day was a month, after I worked at ELC. It was a month in Fresno, so I'm not familiar because things have changed since 2006. We didn't have the Save Mart Center. We didn't have River Park. I mean, when I came back, I was like, wow. Even though I visited every couple years, it wasn't the same. So they contracted me to work at the Poverello House, and my first day was an encampment project. So the person standing right there, David, raise your hand. He was there running around like crazy, but by the way, at the end, we became friends, and he's my publicist, everybody, David. So then I have Ivory. They have the best outreach. So the person that was there that talked to me before the Poverello team came out, Liz was here. Liz and I represent Fresno EOC, and we're waiting, and it was Mayor Jerry Dyer. Remember, I didn't know he's mayor, because when I met him and I was living here, he was the police chief. So then he comes in and he goes, hi, Mayor Jerry Dyer. And I'm like, hi, I'm Soma. I work at Fresno EOC, and I'm going to be helping the Poverello. Oh, great, let me tell you. And he goes, you know Fresno? Yeah, a long time ago, since 2006. He goes, 2006? I said, he goes, things have changed. He's giving me all this for like 5 minutes. So I was like, okay, thank you, Mayor Dyer. So where I go next, like, hi, Mayor Dyer. Oh, yes, how are you doing? So that's my experience with now currently. And then, of course, my former professors. Most of them have passed away, but I do have one, and he's retired. He's actually over there. So you guys have to give a big clap because I graduated in mass communication and journalism. Mr. Jim Wilson, right over there, okay? Thank you, Mr. Jim Wilson. Mindy, yes. Yes. But I did have one. My first job I was working, I'm talking to students. You can work part-time or full-time, but I went to school full-time. So I did not want to work full-time. So I worked part-time, and I worked at Continental Cablevision. That was just my first experience working in an organization of business. Even though it was privately owned, later they were bought out. And I have one person representing Continental Cablevision, and she's here. Her name is Nita. Where are you? Is she here? Oh, there you are. Okay, Nita. So whenever I come into Fresno, because my family lives in LA and Long Beach. Long Beach is where I grew up. They would say, oh, Soma, we're going to schedule our reunions around your visit because I'm coming from either Cambodia or Atlanta. Those are the two places I've lived. So Patty, who's not here, she's actually in New Zealand, and she bought my book already. She read it, and she took a picture of New Zealand. So they usually always come to the cable reunion, and it's nice. So when you come in, you always get a nice reunion. But of course, I can't forget about Pelco, because that was the best organization ever to work for. And I have a lot of Pelco family members here, and the reason why it's important is because Dave worked at Pelco. Dave was an engineer. He started right after college. He majored in engineer here in Fresno State. He's a little bit older than me. And we met, well, we'll talk about that later, but we met later on at Pelco, and I worked at Pelco. But whenever I come into town, they're going to host a Pelco reunion around my schedule. And I just think that's wonderful because I want to see my family. And you know, a lot of you students, you're not working. If you're working full-time, your new family are the people you work with. So right now, I have the Westcare family. So I have to thank them because they know what I go through. But the reason I wanted to work at Westcare is because they deal in mental health and drug and alcohol rehab. And my goal is right now to help those with PTSD. And we all have issues. We all have demons. We all have things we have to deal with. But we have to take it one day at a time. So you guys know now, like, okay, this is what she went through. But I'm going to help you. In the book, I actually help you. And the first 6 months of the book is very tough because the first 6 months of what happened after the accident, you could either go one way or the other way. And I chose to do therapy. And therapy to me was the best thing, and also support from the Pelco family and my family. But mainly it was therapy that's helped. So, and that's why I want to promote that it's okay to go to therapy. It's okay to have PTSD. It's okay to, you know, deal with your mental health issue because we're not all perfect. We all have, you know, some flaws. But if you can find what the issue is and you deal with it, that's how you continue on your life. So thank you. I just wanted to start off with that first by thanking everybody to come here.
Well, can you hear me okay? Something like that. There are many here, particularly the students, and I would say a lot of our community members, Soma, that don't really know your story. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Soma's early life. And we're going to walk through a series of questions that hopefully by the end will share with you Soma's full story, not only her early years, but what she's gone through the last 5. Soma is a direct descendant of King Norodom I, the founder and patriarch of the Cambodian royal family. Cambodia, for those of you who don't know, is a beautiful country located in Southeast Asia, near Vietnam, Thailand, and Laos. Soma's father, His Excellency Prince Norodom Vatbani, was a third cousin of King Norodom Sihamoni, the current king of Cambodia. Vatbani was in the Cambodian Royal Air Force first graduating class of pilots and was a commander-in-chief of the Air Force from 1963 to 1967. During the Cambodian Civil War that started in 1970, Soma's father trained the Khmer pilots for the U.S. Air Force in Thailand. Soma was born in 1969. Sorry about giving away your age. In Cambodia. A year later, the Civil War really got underway. The war was with the communist Khmer Rouge, and by 1975, they had taken complete control. The Khmer Rouge was responsible for one of the worst mass killings of the 20th century, with over 1.7 million people killed. I think it was a lot more than that. That's what's recorded. Days before the Khmer Rouge took power in 1975, Soma and her family were part of the first wave of Cambodians airlifted to safety in the United States. Soma and her family made Long Beach their home and their safe haven. Despite being safe, this type of relocation can bring on significant trauma. Not only did her family leave a country that they deeply loved, but they had to flee quickly. They were facing a new country that they didn't know anything about, a new culture, but they had to leave because of the terror of the Khmer Rouge. Soma, although you were only 5 years old when you came to the United States, how did this relocation to Long Beach as a political refugee impact you and your family?
Well, in 1975, a lot of Americans didn't know what refugees were or who. So refugees are those who's taking refuge in a country that you fought for them in a war. So a lot of people didn't know that Cambodians and Laotians fought in the Vietnam War. And the Vietnam War, no one wants to talk about it. It's not in the history book because it's a war that the Americans lost. Not only did they lose, they lost many lives. Veterans coming back having PTSD, which at that time I wasn't familiar with it. But it was my family, the first generation. They were refugees, my father. And it was hard because at that time in 1975 to 79, that's the first group of refugees in the US. And most of them moved. Actually, we were stationed in Camp Pendleton in San Diego, and that's why we made Long Beach our home. So the Cambodian community of Long Beach is the biggest Cambodian community next to the country of Cambodia. And that's where I grew up. And in growing up as a refugee, and I was only 5, but I had to learn English. And the hardest thing was learning the English, but I learned words, and I became really smart, and I became like a spelling bee champion. I don't know what the words mean, but I just know how to spell it. So in 1975, I stayed in Long Beach, and then my dad, we didn't get help. There was no such thing as support, like, the Cambodian community, the Lao family, the Fresno Center. There's nothing. Remember, and so here my mom and dad and their friends. It was like 5 families. 2 of them were the royal family. And I remember my father, even though we were the first to come here, is because my father helped the U.S. Air Force, the generals, and they sponsored us. You had to be sponsored first, and it was the generals of the Air Force that helped because my father helped in the war. So that's why we were the first group. I never knew that until a year before he passed away. And that's in my first book, Royal Rebel. It's still on Amazon still.
Yes.
I know.
No, it definitely is.
Yeah. So
and if you haven't read it, please do, because it is a phenomenal story as well.
So as the first group of refugees in Long Beach, California, we called the LBC, very tough group, Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre from there. So, we're around that age. We were picked on. Yeah. As refugees, so I still think about that. I wasn't picked on as much, but of course the guys were. And so a lot of the young generation, the first generation of refugees, the guys, not the girls, would go into gangs because their mom would work all the time. And remember, their dad died in the war. So there's single mom working 2 jobs. So they have the kids alone. We're latchkey kids. My mom and dad, latchkey kids, even though I came from royal blood, and my dad was all this. But when you come to the U.S. and you start off as a refugee, you're at the bottom, and they don't care who you are. So we never said, oh, we're royalty here and there. But I have to tell you, the part of the Royal Rebel I had to break it to was 3 royal family. The royal family in the U.S., which is not that many of us, the royal family in France, and the royal family in Cambodia. So the royal family in Cambodia did a lot. A lot of them died. My dad's 5 kids died in Cambodia during the war, the Khmer Rouge. From his first wife. But
I did hear that you jumped right into school, and you were so active.
I was so excited because I wanted to learn to read and speak English, and so I was a really good reader. But I first started off like this. So my mom, I tried to pretend I'm reading upside down, and my mom, one of the girls, like, what is she doing? She's like, I'm trying to read, like, pretending. That didn't work.
Can you imagine this energy starting at
I was like this all the time.
5th grade. She's always been like this.
Always like this. But I became very good in spelling. So in 1977, my dad moves us to Seattle, Washington. We're going to build the Cambodian community of Seattle, Washington. Okay, when you're little, it's okay. Let's go move to Seattle with all the rains and the slugs and all that, no problem. And then, yes. But I got better in my spelling. I became the Seattle Spelling Bee City winner. And the following year was state. I don't know how to, I don't know what words mean, but I do know how to spell. And so at that time, they didn't have the script on ESPN and all that, but I did represent Seattle for the city and then the state. Then we come back, okay, we're gonna go ahead to Long Beach, and I went back and I got to go to school in junior high in Long Beach, and I won the city spelling bee in Long Beach. Oh my gosh, my mom and dad thinks I'm so smart, you know? So in 1987, actually, Lena's here. Her dad, Lena's here. Her dad called my dad. There's Lena. Her dad called my dad to come from Long Beach and said, hey, we need to build the Cambodian community of Fresno. Remember that? Well, I think you were not born. Okay, so I am a junior in high school. I'm really tired of moving everywhere. And I go, Dad, can I just stay one more year in high school in LA, please? Okay, but you need to come with us. I go, okay, so I got accepted to a Cal State system. You guys know you get accepted to Cal State. You can go to Cal State Fullerton, Cal State Long Beach, Cal State LA, Cal State Pomona, Cal State Fresno. So, of course, I took all the tests and stuff. I went to Cal State Fresno. So I come in, it is 1988. You got to remember, there's nothing in 1988 that just feels. But guess what? You have to adapt. Anybody out there? You have to go out and live in a foreign country for work. You got to do this. You got to adapt and be able to enjoy what you have right now. So I took advantage of that, and I became very popular at Fresno State because I was known as the party organizer.
I think there's other names for that.
Yes,
today.
and all the clubs, any clubs, people come to me, and I know Mr. Wilson, I had undergraduate class with him, mass communication. That time was telecommunication because we were the last graduating class of telecommunication, and then the following year was mass communication journalism. So right before class, we all gather around me. Okay, Soma, where are you going this weekend? Oh, we're going to go here. Okay, where are you going? I'm the party organizer. But that picture, so the first picture, I graduated in 93. The second picture, I'm so proud of this. This is, if you guys know why I'm such a big sports fan, not just NBA and NFL, and I did work for the organization, but I'm also a big Fresno State supporter. Fresno State football, that's why I'm a member of the Fresno State Quarterback Club. Right, Alan? We can take, we'll get some membership later. So that was me. That year, I had to try out and be in a pageant. I'm like, oh my God, not even 5 feet with heels. I got to enter a pageant. Well, that time was the California Raisin Bowl pageant because the raisin industry, which is the biggest, the largest, farmers in the U.S. sponsored the football bowl here in Fresno. So I tried out, and I met my mentor. And if you guys know him, he was, I think on Channel 47, his news anchorman, John Wallace. Because after John Wallace retired, he went to work for WestCare. I followed him. So I meet him. He's the host. He's also at that time president of the Bulldog Foundation. He's everything. So I have been in contact with John up to when he passed. When I couldn't be at the funeral, but I'll always be in my heart. But I made it. I didn't win as queen, but I made homecoming. So I was a California Raisin Bowl homecoming princess.
You are not a dancing raisin
No,
either?
not a dancing raisin. But we had to learn how to dance with the dancing raisins. We had to promote the raisin industry for a whole year. We had to go to events, and we had to eat everything with raisins. You got to know everything about raisins. I had boxes and boxes of Sunday raisins. I ate it. So, your meal right there, you have your, okay, so let's say you have a ham, you have raisin on it. Then you got raisin muffin. Then you got raisin on the side. And then for dessert, cookie, raisin cookie.
Once a spokesman, always a spokesman.
I know, right? But let me tell you, raisin is really good. And Sunmaid's big. And the dancing raisin is the best, till this day, the #1 marketing hit ever.
Heard it on the grapevine.
Heard it on the grapevine. So I love that. And then, of course, my last one was we got to take pictures with the Mountain West Championship because we're a member of the Quarterback Club of Fresno State.
Just a little plug again.
Yes. We not only wanted to tell what we do, we host all the tailgates, a home game. We also do away games. Also, one of the members, Tim Schiller, he does away game packages. So we went to, of course, last year, UNLV game. We also went to the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl, the best, you guys. And that picture, we come back, it's this season, right? Alan, in January, we were able to take a picture with the trophy, the big belt. I couldn't even hold a big belt. It was heavy. But I love Fresno State. I made it what it was. I got to meet everybody. And I actually, 2 years, I won Miss Congeniality at the California Raisin Bowl pageant.
And we all get that.
Yeah. So I love Fresno State. And Fresno State, I always schedule everything around Fresno State football. So this is where John Wallace comes in. Since he's president of the Bulldog Foundation at that time, he's like, Soma, when you come into Fresno, when you come into U.S., when I come to the U.S., I go to Long Beach in LA because that's where my family's at. And then I'll take a flight to Fresno. And I usually work around Fresno State football. So every year, John Wallace be like emailing, messaging me, Soma, when are you going to come? I said, okay, let's schedule. Oh, we got homecoming October 29th against San Jose State. You got it. I got you tickets. Okay. And of course, they're going to be VIP tickets.
Well, and actually, Soma's love for Fresno State and where she got her undergrad and her graduate degree, and had a lot of fun doing it as well.
I did.
Made a lot of connections.
Yeah.
And really became another home. She has many homes in our community. And that's why it's so appropriate for us to be here today. It's almost a full circle for us, as Soma really started, I don't want to say blooming, but this was a really important part of her launch in her personal and professional career. After she graduated from Fresno State, she was fortunate enough to take a job, and you've heard about Pelco, but that was one of her first positions. And it was really a great place for her to start. And it was during that time that I think you met your longtime, or had you actually
No, I met Dave at a party. See, Dave can party too, but he gets straight A's. I can party too, but I get straight B's. That's the difference between Dave and I. And you guys know that's Dave's brother and best friends are all here. They're sitting at the table right there, driving a long way. But thank you for coming out. So you guys know how smart Dave is. Yes. That we met first.
So
yeah,
we met first time.
Yeah.
That was back in
1989. 89.
So now it's 2001. She's going to work for Pelco. She walks into Pelco, and immediately her Pelco family, I understand, said, oh, wow, do we have somebody that you've got to meet? We have this guy here, Dave Tosay, who has a personality bigger than life. I think that it matches Soma's. The two of them are going to be great friends. And that is really where the friendship started taking off. Am I right?
Yes, you're correct. Dave had a larger-than-life personality. You guys know Dave. Jenny, you guys, Tina, you guys all work. Nanette, Earl.
Explain for those who, I mean, you said a little bit in the very beginning.
Okay, so Dave majored and graduated in engineering, and he went right to Pelco. This is before Pelco was like big. Pelco became big because of 9/11, because we were the only cameras that was on ground zero. Very important. It was such an honor for Mr. Dave McDonald, of course, and the Lyles to give us a job that we love, but we also was helping the country mourn. Because a lot of those people are dealing with PTSD. So I meet Dave, 2001. We're just friends. Like, okay, hi, I haven't seen you. Oh my God, you haven't seen me? So he goes, do you remember me at a party? 1989. This is 2001, you guys. I said, no. I did. Glenn, Rob, you guys know he has a photographic memory. He remembers everything. I put that in the book. So I was like, no. And then our friendship grew. He loves sports. He loves the Raiders, and he loves college football. He loves Fresno State. He also loves Alabama, and he loves the Lakers. We both were Laker fans. I can tolerate the Raiders. Derek Carr, okay, but now he's gone. I don't have to tolerate the Raiders. But we love the Lakers. So I would organize Pelco night to go watch the Lakers, like at a bar, not down in LA or anything. So we would go to a sports bar and stuff, and we all gather, and it's like our bonding right after work. Dave would show up. But then I get the job that was the best job. So I started as a marketing communication writer. So I write the press releases, the newsletter. And that time, Pelco, this is before 9/11. This is 2001, and 9/11 happened, in September. So, and I want to give advice to those students. Wherever you work, this could be your home, or you could move somewhere else. But everybody will be watching you, your work ethics, be on time. Especially now, we didn't have social media then. Especially now, do not post things on social media that you're like drinking and all that. I mean, this doesn't because they can go back and look at it. But back then, we didn't have that. So that's just my advice right now to the students right now. you make your job as it is, but you work hard. Even though that's not the job that you want, I really just want to work at Pelco. I just heard Pelco is the best company to work for. And those who've been here, you guys at Pelco, you guys know, we get, raise your, yeah, we get end of the month lunch. We had a restaurant. Later on, we had our own jet, and we had our own private travel agency, which I had helped work and do. But the owners always acknowledge good employees. It was all employees. Whether you work in the factory, the facility, you work in the shipping, you work in marketing, you work in sales, you name it. They always recognize us, and that's what we like. We like to work in an organization that the owners, the president recognize good work. And so that's why I always say, people say, you work at Pelco, but I got the best job. And I'm going to tell you, so as a marketing communications writer, you're writing everything that, but I loved it, by the way, because I was able to interview. I could do stories of how a camera can just, now you need security cameras everywhere, but I had to make it look so like enticing that you would buy it. So you see all those Pelco cameras at the airport in Vegas International, the Pelco cameras. And Dave was one of the engineering team that patented, him and his engineering team. So like when I go to Vegas, like when I went to Vegas, they're like, oh, Dave will be watching over you. I go, yeah, he's literally watching over me. There's a camera that says Pelco. Really?
Well, that is great. In 2006, okay, here Soma is, and she has this amazing job, first job out of school. She's just growing leaps and bounds. She's working in a culture that allows her to thrive. Yet she was given an opportunity to move on in her profession, and she moved to, didn't you move from Fresno to Georgia?
Yeah, but before that in Pelco, so Mr. I wanted to tell the students that the owners and the CEO and president will watch you, where you start off with, and they want to see what type of worker you are. So Dave McDonald noticed when I started working at Pelco in 2001, and it was 2002, he and the VPs, they have a meeting every Wednesday. They would sit there and go over everything from budget and stuff. And he goes, I want to create a new program. It's going to bring customers. It's some type of customer program, but I want someone, he didn't say Soma, he said, I want someone like Soma to do it. And then Phil Griswold, Jenny, Dave Smith, so the VP of sales and VP of marketing, that's who my boss is. They're like, why don't we just ask Soma if she wants to do it? So they come to me, and they said, Soma, Mr. McDonald, Mr. McDonald's the president, CEO, wanted to know if, you can create this program, customer service. That time, Pelco was still had a name, but it wouldn't have a name until 2001. So now we're like in the spotlight. We're all over the media, everything because of 9/11. And then I'm talking, I go, okay, sure. How much does it pay? Like, I know you shouldn't ask that, but it's like a joke. Oh, yeah, okay. But also I said, okay, if it doesn't succeed, I said if, because it's going to succeed, because you have to think positive if it doesn't. But can I have my job back? You gotta have that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good thinking.
Yes, yeah. So I created the customer relations program, which brought customers all over the world and in the U.S. to Pelco. We pay for everything, airfare, lunch. We had our own restaurant. There's a head of the person right down there, Julie De Benedetto. She had oversaw the restaurant inside Pelco. I gave them a 2-hour tour in my high heels through the factory to show how the cameras are made. VIP guests, $1 million guests, because we're paying them to come here. It could be anywhere from Australia to China to Wisconsin to San Diego. But we're going to pay. We're going to take care of you, not just taking care of your hotel, airfare, meals, but we also give you training. Of course, you do the 2-hour tour. You'll see how the camera is built from the beginning when they solder all the way to shipping it out. And I loved my job. Yeah, it's not an 8 to 5 job because you're 8 to 5, you're with the customer, but you also have to host customers at the nighttime too. So we go to the best restaurants in town. And yeah, we pay for everything. So, but of course, the sales team are bringing them in, the sales rep gotta make some money too. So of course, when they come into our facility and they see our employees, how happy they work, and they see just how it starts from beginning to end and how smooth it runs, they're going to buy Pelco camera. So we pretty much seal the deal. You have to just come to the facility and you'll seal the deal. So I was responsible for that, Melissa and I, and after that, our customer relations team grew, and it was so successful.
Well, that then brings me to ask, why did you leave to go to Georgia? Because you're growing within the organization's growing, but you have an opportunity to move to Georgia. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you transitioned there?
So if you're at your highest, where you're at, sometimes you go further, and it's unknown. You take risks, you take challenges. So when I majored in mass communication journalism, I was once married, I put my career on hold. I didn't go into broadcasting. I majored into sports and public affairs. So I had the opportunity to go to Georgia. I moved to Atlanta without a job or a car, but I had a really nice apartment in Buckhead. And I started from the ground up. I got a sports job. I worked also in marketing. You got to have a regular marketing job. I was an extra in Tyler Perry movies. I'd never been an actress. I did it because Tyler Perry is known in Atlanta. It's like the Hollywood of the South. He will only hire locals. And hey, I live in Atlanta. I'm a local. So yeah, I'm going to get all his movies. But you can see me in several scenes and Medea goes to jail. So yeah, it's that.
If I had known that, we would have shown it.
I know. So I left because I wanted to take a risk and continue. And I did. I got a female sports talk show, all female with all different nationality race, but you have to know sports. And I do. I love sports. I did that. We went to 2 Super Bowl, 2009, 2010. I mean, what a job. That's a job. I mean, yes, you got to report it, but you're going to the Super Bowl. I was partying with Rihanna and Chris Rock. I mean, I'm telling you, everybody was just, and I'm like, oh, I got to, and then I brought my girlfriends too, because I stayed at a nice hotel. They were like, okay, Soma, we're just going to go to the parties. And so I go, yeah, but I got to work. So they're partying, having fun, going to the beach and stuff at nighttime. I have to work, so I will work. But they enjoyed it. So 2009, we went to Tampa for the Super Bowl. 2010, we went to Miami. Oh my gosh, Miami was just beautiful. That's why I left Fresno. I didn't know I want to leave. I did not want to leave Pelco. But sometimes in your life, you have to take that risk because you're like, this little thing in you saying, I wish I did it. I wish I did it.
And so here she is. She's gotten a great foundation at Pelco. She's moved on now to Georgia. And this is particularly important for the students in the room. She took the risk to go and start fresh, start over in an area that she didn't know anything about. I mean, Georgia was new to you then. And really started thriving in a new location and was able to take all the skills that she had learned at Fresno State and at Pelco and apply them to grow into that next stage. But while she was back there in 2010, I think, she received news that her father, who had moved to Cambodia, back to Cambodia, was dying of heart failure. And Soma was faced with a situation where she had to determine, does she stay in Georgia and continue growing, or does she go and be with her father in Cambodia? And I let you take it over from there and explain how you went through that decision.
It was really hard. My brother and sister were like, well, you need to go to Cambodia. I go, I don't want to go to Cambodia. Dad's dying. That was my dad's dying wish. It's a little bit different to explain. If you're a member of the royal family, you're Buddhist, and you are cremated, and your ashes used to be spread where the Tonsilat River and the Mekong River meet. So Mekong's the largest river, and it's right there in the heart, in the capital of Cambodia. So, of course, we were living in Cambodia. So that's what my dad wanted. So my brother and sister, you got to go. I'm like, oh, my gosh, I got a good job. I'm going to do this. I even have a boyfriend. Oh, my gosh. But your job can come and go. Your relationship can come and go. But your father, you only have one. That's when I made the decision to go. I left everything. And remember, you're going to another country, even though, now I'm not a princess yet because I had to claim my title. So for 40 years, I hid my secret as a princess. And you can't go running around when you're a teenager going, I'm a princess. They're going to think.
And they're going to wonder if you're at Disneyland or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We don't do that. So real princes don't do that. So in 2010, I went back, fulfilled my father's dying wish. I took care of him. I hated it. I didn't tell him. I cried for 3 months, you guys. I was homesick. I miss football, basketball, In-N-Out Burger. I mean, you got to remember, I'm in another country and in another culture. But I had to do it. Wait, it's for your dad, Okay. Remember, family is first. So I did it. And I went back and said goodbye to all my Pelco family in 2010. They remember. And Dave was there too. So I said goodbye in 2006. And then I said goodbye in 2010. So I go. So I'm in Cambodia, and I'm like, now I'm a princess, which a princess is, okay, so you have to be by blood, not by marriage. So there's only two royal family names, the Norodom or the Sisawat, and I'm a Norodom. So my great-great-great-grandfather is the first king of Cambodia. My dad never cared about royalty. He's all about the Air Force. He built the first flying school. He went from colonel to general to commander-in-chief. And the U.S. Air Force loved my father for them to be able to sponsor. And on their 50th anniversary in Las Vegas, these are all the commander-in-chiefs of the world. And the U.S. Air Force and George Bush Sr. was there. My father was the only one in a wheelchair, and they came up and just paid respect. So that's the work that my dad helped out during the war, and till this day, so I said, okay. So as princess, a different story. So you have to be by blood, and you have to, in order to get the royal ID, and you have to have a witness by the Queen Mother, the minister of the royal palace, and a senior royal family member. Remember, Cambodia, everything was wiped out, the documents, so they don't know if you're royalty or not. You could say, you're Mindy Norodom, you know? You're Darno Norodom. They don't know because it's wiped out. So you have to get those verified by the head royal family members. Because everybody knows my grandfather, not my father. I knew my father was Air Force, but my grandfather was a big wig in the political arena. He almost won and became king. So that's a big deal, yes. So you get all that approved. This royal ID is like the key to the city. You guys know what that, key to the city. So you pretty much go anywhere like Uncle Wat, go anywhere, you get in. You're a royal family member. You're a public figure, by the way. And I wanted to explain because I did watch the documentary with Prince Harry and Meghan. I wanted to see for myself, did I go through this? And I wanted to tell you, I probably did, but I wrote a book on it. So I did. I went through. So if you're not a fan of Meghan, hopefully you understand she had to deal with the family stuff because I had to deal with the family. And I didn't care about royal family member, but I had to for my father. So I became Princess Soma, but this is what I took from radio, TV broadcast, and as a journalist, I created the very first English-speaking radio talk show in the country of Cambodia. Thanks to my knowledge and skills, and I would then email Mr. James Wilson and Mr. Jim Fowler, my professor, radio, TV. I wish I got an A in that class, but I needed advice. I go, I have this daunting
Do you remember
task.
me?
I do. I have this daunting task of creating, a radio station. I don't even know how to do it in 3 months. So I did. I have an awesome people. They don't know what interns are, so I hired lots of interns at university. It was the university that sponsored it. Interns are the best, you guys. In 3 months, when the radio show went on, I was #1 in 6 provinces in the country of Cambodia. People just wanted to hear English speaking. They didn't even know who I was. But the U.S. Embassy does. And anybody that goes through Cambodia, if you're an American citizen, you need to register at U.S. Embassy because if anything happens to you, they will take care of you because you're a U.S. citizen first. So anybody that goes through Cambodia will be like, oh, you need to go to Princess Soma's radio talk show. And I'm like, I have all these guests already lined up, but when a VIP guest from the U.S. Embassy, you got to mark it off. And I did have one that we had to take out. His name is Ralph Bedlider. If you guys know him, he's a journalist, the very first CNN correspondent to be on the front line to report on the Iraq War. Well, he was a guest of the U.S. Embassy in Cambodia that year, so I had to erase everything and change everything and put him on the show. And on my show, it's special because we get to eat and drink while I talk and interview you. I love it. So we got the CEO of Coca-Cola come on, too. Of course, you have the drinks and stuff. But we supply the food. So he's just eating this, Cambodian food. And he's like, oh, this is so good, yummy, yummy. He's like, wow. He's like, this is great, amazing. All right, when are we going to start the show? I go, we're starting now. He was really impressed because he has a radio show in Washington, D.C., because now he's a professor and he teaches journalism. And he has a political radio talk show in Washington, D.C. He does it 4 times a year. And he goes, Soma, you do 7 shows a day. He does it for 30 minutes 4 times a week. I do it 7 days, an hour and a half a day. And he goes, what is your secret? And I said, Vietnamese coffee. I taught my bosses.
At West Care, are they all drinking it too?
They're all drinking Vietnamese coffee because that's a secret.
I wish we had some right now.
I know, I'm so sorry. But yeah, you don't have that? Oh, okay.
No, I
Oh,
just have water. in
okay.
here.
You like the mug?
So Soma became she was an influencer. She was a public figure. She was well known throughout the country. And her passion, which she has a little of, and her strong efforts to address social issues and to promote freedom of expression caught the attention of the government because of an article that talked about the future of the monarchy. She was accused of incitement from an article she wrote as a columnist. My understanding is that when you're accused of incitement in Cambodia, you either get deported, forced to leave, are sent to jail, or maybe even killed. This must have been an extremely, after you've spent so much time merging yourself into the culture and really becoming a Cambodian again, as you always have been, but making it your home. To have caused this type of incitement must have been extreme fear for you. And the choices you had to make at this point, given the potential outcomes, would have frightened anybody in your same position. Tell us a little bit more about this part of your life.
So it's in my book, Royal Rebel. Incitement is a very serious claim, especially when you're a journalist and in another country, even though I am Cambodian. Because other journalists, if you guys have seen on TV, if you write about taboo topics like corruption and human trafficking, you will be sent to jail or be killed. And you've seen some journalists that they were beheaded on live TV. So that's what I was. So that year, 3 people were accused of incitement. One of them went to jail. The other one was killed. And then there was me. At that time, it's different because I'm a royal family member, but I'm also a columnist. I also had my own column. And it was the #1 Southeast Asian newspaper. So countries like, even in China, but Thailand, Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia, of course, Vietnam, they all read my article. And I had to write about topics that were pressing. Human trafficking, corruption, like I said, drugs and alcohol, bringing drugs into the country. I mean, I write about that. I was a columnist. And Lanny Larson is not here. He's a retired columnist for the Fresno Bee. He's actually another one of my mentors. He couldn't be here. But I always think back of how, as being a columnist, if you're a journalist, your goal is to actually, you are the gatekeeper. You are the first to report a story, whether it's of human interest or not, but also a dire topic that will affect the country and the people. And I had the daunting task of doing it. So this is after my radio show, after I knew everything about the country and the people and stuff, because it's not in the books, it's not in the history book. No one's gonna write about it. You need to research, you need to educate yourself, because like I said, knowledge is power. So I had all this information. And then, of course, they dropped the ball because the king father, the greatest king of Cambodia, King Norodom died. His body was taken from Beijing to Cambodia to be cremated. And it was international news, so especially in Asia. So everybody would be calling everybody, oh, what happened, this and that, and of course it called me. And since I was a columnist, I took a week off to mourn because he is a family member. I wasn't a columnist, I was Soma, the granddaughter, So it was a following week. I had to write about the passing of the king father. I won't get into it, but I got in trouble because it was just leading up to it. And the newspaper I was working for is not the government. It's an Australian newspaper. They own like Myanmar Times, Bangkok Times, Phnom Penh Post. That's who I work for. You gotta remember, in countries like those, the government controls the media and they own that. So they have a say to whatever you can talk about. But because this is also it was a little bit different. So that's why we were the #1 read newspaper in Asia, because we talk about the truth and what's going on. I wish I knew what COVID was like by then, because my life changed. And it was 2 months. It happened on my birthday, October 29th. And I was accused of incitement. And I don't watch the news and stuff. So all over my face and name was all over the media. And this is how, I want to explain how big it was. It's like you being a terrorist and your name and face is all over the news. So that's what it was like. So my life changed. I had to go into, not hiding, because I was still a columnist. This one, Dave came into the picture later because he comes to visit me, and he didn't know about this until years later he tells me about it. When you have a lot of friends, family too, when you get in trouble, they're not there. They run away like cockroaches. Yeah, so only my closest friends. Of course, my family, my mom and brother, sister are in the US. They're not in Cambodia. My dad is 2 months before he passed away. So this is October 29th on my birthday.
So it was simultaneously that you were accused and your father was facing his final days.
Yeah, and everybody was like, you need to retract your column, you need to apologize to the prime minister, apologize to the royal family, apologize this, you lied on this. No, I don't lie. I'm a journalist. I pay, the ethics. It's not ethical to write anything. And that time, no social media, so you can't have your opinion. Not fake news. It's all about the facts. So I had the facts. And like I'm going to tell you, I take pictures. That picture saved me. But I can't tell you much. You're going to have to read the book.
Now you mentioned...
But then...
Well, go ahead.
So I'm known all over now, all over Asia. So now everybody wants to interview me, to see me, to do this. And I'm just like, okay, I got to be in hiding. And I had a Facebook fan page. I didn't have a Facebook. The only way that my family in the U.S. knew I was alive was I had to post every day. And I had a person in Cambodia to also help to post, and a person in the U.S. That was the only way my family, my mom and brothers and sisters would know I was going to be alive. After 3 days, I said, go look for me. Was that serious?
During this time, you mentioned that Dave came to visit you. Was he, if I remember correctly, you had mentioned to me that he had actually moved and taken a job in South Korea?
Yes.
At the time, and you didn't know that, or did you?
No, I didn't know this. So my father passed away 2 days for Christmas on December 23rd, 2012. So the prime minister and the government gave me a whole week to mourn because he's Buddhist, and you got to do the Buddhist thing, and I had to learn how to do everything. So at that time, I didn't even care. I had to be out in public, and if you have snipers around, I'm at the point where I need to pay respect to my father. That's why I'm here. I didn't care, but they did give me that week to mourn. I could not mourn in public. It was very hard. You got to remember, if you're like a terrorist, If you're going out in public, you don't think people are going to take pictures or try to get you or kidnap you? Yes, but I had no choice. I had to fulfill my father's dying wish. You got to understand that. So at that time, I wasn't even afraid. I just became fearless. I was like, you know what, go ahead. But they let me do that. And a week later, of course, in the news, the prime minister is accusing Princess Soma. She needs to explain why and this and that. I continue on. And then Dave contacts me through LinkedIn. Oh, LinkedIn, you guys, is the best professional social media.
And hopefully all the students in here have their own homepage.
Yeah.
If not, immediately when you leave, set up your LinkedIn, because Soma's right.
I'm on it too, so you guys can click me. So Dave messaged me on LinkedIn. Because after Pelco was old, everybody had to get new jobs. So Dave became vice president of Samsung in the security division, for the cameras and stuff. And he also was contracted by the government doing other things, but I can't really talk about it. So he messaged me, goes, I'm so sorry about your father. Hey, I'm now living in South Korea. I like to come visit, because he didn't tell me what he was doing. He was like, oh, I usually come to Thailand, and then I'll come up in Cambodia. Thailand and Cambodia, it's only an hour flight. So it's kind of like going from Fresno to Vegas. You can't drive, you got to fly. So he's like, okay, I got to do a trip in Thailand. I'll come see you in Cambodia, and that's we connected again as friends. So the third time, and I'm like, okay, and it's great because like I said, your former job, they're always going to be your family. So, when I was in Cambodia, I still had contacts with a lot of Pelco people. Some would come visit, and then I remember surprise date, but I can't tell you because you got to read the book on that, with one of the Pelco employees. But yeah, I met him again. And when I go to South Korea to visit him, he comes to Phnom Penh. I give him a tour of the Royal Palace. I got to tell you this really quick. So Dave waits in line for a tour of the Royal Palace. I'm like looking, I go, Dave, where are you? I'm like, I'm a princess. I don't need to go, I'm going to be giving you the tour of my palace. So, but he is so honorable. He waited in line to go buy a ticket. What a great guy, right? So I'm at the front line, I'm trying to find him. I don't even know him. I'm about to give him a tour, and then the ticket guy goes, "Oh, hello, Princess Soma." And I go, "Dave, what are you doing?" He goes, "Is this your friend?" I go, "Yes, this is my friend." He goes, "Oh," and then Dave's like, "Everybody," he goes, "No, no, no, take it, you know. This is Princess Soma, and that's her house." I gave Dave a private tour of certain places. You can't go into the Royal Palace because the Royal Palace, you have a tour, you got to pay for it, but they don't get you places. And this is one of them that you can't go in. And that's where the king, the prime minister, and all the head of states from different countries.
It's also on the screen.
Oh,
right
okay.
now, too.
They go there. That's private area. So, and then if you see my outfit, oh, this one, I have to wear these Cambodian attires. They're called kaban. If you guys, I think they're MC Hammer pants. It took 2 people to put it and to take it out. So if you have to go to the bathroom, good luck.
So what I'm hearing is that just in this craziness that you were experiencing in Cambodia at the time, personally, Dave was a bright light for you.
Oh, yeah.
And yet he was in Korea, you were in Cambodia, and your mom and sisters were in Long Beach. They must have been scared
Oh, yeah.
to death for you.
Of course, yes.
Did they try to get you home?
Oh,
to
yes.
California?
Oh, my mother. Any excuse can get her. Oh, it's my birthday and I'm having a big party. Can you come? Because she won't let me go back. But she finally said, and I came back in 2004. She goes, "I'm having back surgery. I need you to help me." Well, you can't say no to mother. So, of course, I just packed a suitcase. I left everything there. And as of 2014, I never went back.
But
So,
could you have gone back if you wanted to?
I could, but not with it because I wrote the book.
Right.
I wrote the book. If you're a U.S. citizen, I'm a U.S. citizen before I became a princess. So if you're a U.S. citizen, you go work in another country, they will take care of you. That's why you got to be registered in the U.S. Embassy. They will take care of you. They will watch over you. Any issues. The U.S. Embassy was there to watch me. The CIA, FBI's were there to watch over me. Dave was there to watch over me, too.
Soma, when you came back to Long Beach, how was it sort of assimilating back into a U.S. culture when you had worked so hard and you came as a refugee here, you worked hard to get into your American way of life. Then you go back to Cambodia and you work really hard to understand the history, the customs, and the culture of your home country. And now you're coming back to the U.S. And was that hard to assimilate back into the U.S.?
Yeah, because I couldn't be Princess Soma. I know this.
You got kind of
yes,
used to it?
I got used to it. Because let me tell you what I use my title for. I don't use my title, my other princess and stuff, to get whatever. I don't. I was the only working princess. I had a job. See, the royal ID gives you stipend money. They take care of you. So that's why if you watch Prince Harry, Meghan, you'll understand. I chose not to take the money because I wanted the freedom and independence to do whatever I wanted. If you grow up in the U.S., that is priceless. You go somewhere in another country, especially they call it democratic communist country, no, you don't want to be paid. You want the freedom and independence. That is priceless. So I miss that. Don't get me wrong. When I was a president over there, before I got in trouble, I used my title to raise awareness, to raise money. I mean, I could be at an event and it'll be like 1,000 people because Princess Soma's coming. Things like, if you guys know that, if you're like a celebrity or a president come, you're going to get that. So I was able to raise awareness with human trafficking. I actually helped in that. Dave actually was helping human trafficking too. He was behind the scene, but I was in front, which means that you talk about it, you do the commercials, you write about it. Dave was behind the scene. Then I also was involved in children with HIV. So things like that. So anything that was important, education, kids, I was able to use my title to promote that, to bring awareness to issue and to raise money.
Well, and that's what makes you you, Soma. You've used it not only when you were in Cambodia, but you continue to help bring awareness to so many important causes in our own community, and you've lent to others that are here the ability to help promote because of your background. And that is you have a very philanthropic heart, one that is definitely a giver, and you give and give and give. And we're all recipients of that here in this room today. But I'm going to move you over to a very important part of your new book, Royal Love. Tell me, how did you get back to Fresno? And how did you reconnect again with Dave?
Okay, so I moved back. My mom was able to have surgery, and then she keeps stalling, changing her schedule. And then it was 6 months. I was like, Mom, are you going to have surgery? She goes, no, I just want you to be here. That's a mother. But that's a mother's love. Because she knows. She was freaking out. I'm like, she can't even read my book. So I don't have the security anymore. Like I said, when I go anywhere, I have security. Even when Macau, when the Asia Pacific Film Festival invited me, this is how tight security is. They're like, we need 2 security in outside the elevator of her hotel and 2 in front of the room. And we were staying at the Venetian Hotel Macau, $10,000 a night. So I'm going to have 3 bodyguards. I can't even get people in my room. That's how tight it was. I had to have security all the time. And when I fly, go to the airport, I just don't go to the airport. They sneak me in. I usually do the night flight. The manager sneak me in to get me in and out. I couldn't live like that. I mean, really, I wanted my freedom and independence. So moving back to the States, I was like, okay, I'm in LA. I got to learn how to drive through LA traffic. If you can drive through LA traffic, you can drive anywhere. I did. And then Dave was still in South Korea, and then he came back. So he's come back to California. Like, I need to talk to you, Soma, because now we're in the U.S. And I just said, you know what? Anything that from the past of everybody that I've been in contact with, Royal Rebel, I don't really want to associate any of it. Finally, I was like, okay, fine, I will go see you in April, but you got to go, and this is our first date, 2017, to the Arts and Humanities fundraiser.
And unfortunately, Nora just had to leave to go probably
no,
back to class.
Tell Nora.
Who's
Dr.
the dean
Chapman
of Arts and
and
Humanities.
Humanity. Yeah, I go, you got to go to a fundraiser. When you're on a first date, girls or guys, you got to go somewhere there's like a lot of people. If it doesn't happen,
So again, Fresno State plays really an important part in this part of
So
Soma's
Dave
story.
met Dr. Saul, who's now the president of Fresno State, because Dave spoke Portuguese. He's Portuguese. So did Dr. Saul. It's things like that, And so Dave met Dr. Chapman. They were very supportive, by the way, because they saw me go from coming out, my first book, 2016, all the way, for Dave's passing even today. So that tells you that students, you got to still network and be in contact with your professors and the staff members because they're going to be there for you, to help you.
Tell us about this, your soulmate, Dave, and your very fast and furious love story.
So we've known each other for 29 years, so we're just going to fast forward after a year. So we did everything, every weekend, and we're always going here and there. Our favorite place is Vegas. We just like to get away for the weekend. Dave used to work at the trade show. He's an engineer. In Vegas, we had the ISC West, which was the biggest trade show, in the security industry, international. So I would have to work there too. We'd go to Vegas, and then we would meet our friend, one of our good friends, Joe McDevitt. He's the VP of sales. He lives in Vegas, so he's always calling us. And everybody's having birthday parties in Vegas. So let's go for Andrew Charleston's 50th birthday. He was a Pelco rep, so we did that. So after a year, so everything's, and then finally, okay, so Dave's like, Dave's mom passed away, so I wasn't able to meet his mother. But my mom is still alive. So Dave kept, I need to meet your family. I want to meet, those Asian fam moms? You know how they are? If you introduce your boyfriend, you better walk down the aisle. I was like, I'm not ready yet. So I stalled until March of 2018. I regret it, but things you do. Dave and my mom meets. Dave was Catholic, and he's Portuguese. My mom's Catholic, Portuguese. They had a lot in common. They were just talking to her, and at the end of the night, my mom's like laughing because he's telling all the stories. You guys know how Dave is. And at the end, she's like, okay, I approve. Great. Memorial Day weekend, we go to visit Glenn, who's here. Is Glenn here? Oh, where's he? Oh, there's Glenn. He lives in Modesto. That's where Dave's from. And then, Dave's brother's here. You guys, Rob. There's Rob. And then Dave's high school friend, Lisa. And then, is Robert Karen here? It's okay. So Glenn, he's in the book, by the way. So we go to him because it's Memorial Day weekend. We are going to get engaged and announce it. It's not official unless it's on Facebook. But we had to ask every member, of like the, of our wedding party. So he wanted to ask, that's his they grew up together in high school. They're best friends in college. So so we decided to go, okay, Glenn, let's go. And it was the NBA Eastern Conference final game, right, Glenn? We went. And then we come back, the accident happened. And so right there, okay, in that street on Herndon between Fruit and West, that's right there.
We love you, Soma.
So Megan is here. Her and her family got me out of the truck, but they didn't get
So you're
Dave
going
out.
back to
Yeah.
Fresno
After we visit.
after visiting
yeah.
family and friends up in Modesto,
Mhm.
and you had stopped to get a bite to eat.
No, the truck had issues. So the whole time Dave is driving because he's veering. So we drove from Modesto all the way, and I remember, I'm not familiar with Fresno because I've been gone, and
Right.
we exit 99. So 99 and Herndon?
Herndon.
Okay, so there was a McDonald's there. And it's funny because when Minnie and I met before our interview, we wanted to go over, she goes, let's meet at
Mad Dog.
Mad Duck. It was right across that McDonald's.
And I had no idea.
I had no idea, yeah. So I was okay this year because every year I can't go by the accident site. That's why, my driving can't drive. That's why Fresno EOC, they know what happened in Poverello House. So we went by that accident site. And at that night, I just kind of, had a nervous breakdown because the PTSD triggered. But it was okay. So this year, ABC 30 did another story, like coming back in a year later, and to promote my book. I don't know if Cassandra's here from ABC 30. Oh, there she is, Cassandra, ABC 30. It was my idea. I said, Cassandra, I was already at the station. I said, Cassandra, I want to go to the accident site. And she was like, what? Oh my gosh, are you sure? I said, yeah, because I just wanted to see, it was, okay, this is. So we go to the accident site, and she films it there, and I was fine. So that tells you, like I said, I still go to therapy, but that's helped me because I could never be in that area. So that helped out a lot. And this year is Dave's 5-year anniversary on Memorial Day. But usually my best friend, I think she's gone, but she's in the book. Okay, but you'll know when you read about it, she's in the book. I usually go with her every year to put flowers, and then one of Dave's best friend. And in the first year, I was with Glenn and his family in Modesto. But this year, I'm going to go by myself and put flowers on the wall.
Suddenly losing a person that meant so much to you for so long, even though you had a really fast courtship, I guess, actually it was 29 years,
Yeah.
in my opinion,
Yeah.
building this incredible relationship. How do you endure that? I mean, what did you do, and how did you deal with that sudden loss? And I hate to even ask you this question, and you and I have talked about it, and we knew that this was going to be. Actually, if somebody from the Lyle Center could bring up some tissue, that would be wonderful.
okay.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah,
Okay.
And
we knew that this was going to be hard, and this is what's outlined in her new book. But I do want, if you can share, because this is really important as you move forward in your life journey. You're taking all of these lessons and all of this resilience that you have built up throughout a lifetime, but really during the last 5 years, to help other people. So if you feel like it, Soma, can you share a little bit about how you moved through that period of time?
Like I said, the first 6 months of after the accident, I didn't want to be in Fresno. I just, I planned to move back to Atlanta. My pastor said, why don't you move back? You can build a church. I helped them build a church. You can heal. I just didn't want to be around Fresno and California, and that was my way. So I had to leave. And then I went back to Atlanta. I was able to heal. Got into the Bible. Back then, I wasn't a Christian. I was baptized in 2015. And Dave was really proud of me at that time. I was just texting him and stuff, But I had my faith. It was important. And also, I went to therapy a lot. Any kind of therapy you can think of, PTSD, I have it. And then what I did is I shared the first 5 sessions of going through the loss of like what my therapist would do. I'm still doing therapy, but the first one in Long Beach, first 5 was the most critical. I remember that's very important. So then I was able to go, then continue on. And Dave's friends, would message me on Facebook. I became, by the way, Dave's friends became my friend. I want to thank them for their support. They're like, whatever you need, and. So they would message me and say, Dave came into my dream and he wants you to continue their plan. And I was like, yeah, I know what the plan is, okay, but they don't know. So I was like, okay, I'm going to continue. So the plan was move to Atlanta, finish your book. We were supposed to go on the Mediterranean and go to Israel, but because right now it's Israel, go to Israel. That was the 3 plan. And I moved to Atlanta, like you said. I didn't finish my book. I went to Atlanta for 4 years, for Georgia, and I did not finish my book. And I realized that you can't run away from your issues. It's going to come back. You have to deal with it. So I come back. Like I said, I get a job working for Fresno EC. By the way, if you work in public service, it's the best feeling, especially helping the homeless. I didn't know we had that many homeless people in Fresno. Things have changed. So therapy is important, but also friends. I had Pelko family. Like I said, this book's dedicated to Dave and the Pelko family, and they've helped me. But you have to live. You have to go through life each day. You have to get up and go and just make it the best. And there's days that you don't want to go, but you do. You have to step out. Like I said, self-care. You got to take care of yourself. One of the therapists told me, go and do something by yourself. I went to the movies by myself back then. I even go, and she said the next one's go out of town. I went out of town by myself. You got to do things like that by yourself. Self-care is taking care of yourself, so it's mentally and physically. But you got to continue with therapy. You have to, when you're stressed, you have to get out, go do whatever. Your job will be there. If you're a good employee, they're not going to fire you. Everybody, I don't know, it's called stress day, but you can take a day of sick. You're sick. You're not lying. You're sick. So that's what I do. I help. But then the book was very healing. So I moved back. Remember, I had 4 years in Georgia. I could not write the book, and that was one of the plans. I come back, and I get the job now at West Care. So I asked my boss, thank you, I like to work at West Care, and I finally get a job at West Care. And the transition where I worked as a case in the corporate, the headquarter office on Gateway, at 5 weeks before I went to work at MLK, which is the drug and alcohol. In 5 weeks, I wrote the book and finished it. So
I have read, and this is the book, and again, if you're interested in it, we do have books in the back. You can purchase, if not, on Amazon.
Amazon, yeah, it's on now.
And Soma will sign it for you. But when you finally were able to write the book in those 5 weeks, how did that writing help you today?
That's part of the PTSD process. And like I said, we have PTSD from the first generation as refugees, and that's why you have veterans who have PTSD because of the war. Then this is mine. So that's the second part of PTSD. One of the therapy that helps you, they have different ones. There's EMDR, there's NET, you name it, is to actually write about what you went through, and you read it. So because I went to therapy again, I was able to write it. This is part of my therapy, and I finished the book, and then they read it. So my best friend, she's not here, she had to leave, but she's in the book. So you gotta remember, she and Glenn, and Garnett's not here, but they were the ones that were helping me for 2 weeks. She got my phone. Like I said, literally 500, 600 people would call and message, and she responded to all. And some people from Pelco came to visit. I mean, the most important thing to be able to move on is, of course, you gotta take care of yourself first, but you gotta continue with therapy. It's okay to have therapy. And you gotta have a great support system. You got friends and family, and your employees, those are your family. This is who I work with for 8, 9 hours a day, 40 hours a week. That's my family. But that's how I dealt with it. But reading, when you write something, it just comes out. And the hardest thing, I'm not gonna tell you exactly, in the first chapter, I go right into the accident. I just do it. And then, yeah.
Soma, you have had such an incredible life, and you've had some very high highs and some very low lows. And you have found a way forward, and that has taken significant resilience, support, as you mentioned, and the ability to transform trauma from a sense-losing free fall almost to a sense-remaking journey. Going forward, what future plans do you have that will allow you to use all of this experience of your life, as well as your own philanthropic heart that you have for all others, to serve other people?
I always say, because my dad really, when he built the Cambodian community in Fresno, he taught me how to help others. It's the best feeling. Students out there, besides interning, go to an organization that can help the city, help an organization, help the people, because that's the best feeling. You can intern, you can work. That's what I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue working at West Care. I'm going to continue taking care of myself, continue to go to therapy. I'm now a member of the Fresno Chaffee Zoo helping Safari Night, which is September 29.
And there's flyers on your desk?
So I get
Or on your
involved.
table,
I'm a
and
member
on the
of
back?
Yep, a member of quarterback club. We already started spring training, football practice last weekend. So I got to continue to keep busy, but you got to do something that you enjoy. I love what I do. So you got to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, get out. Time is short. So
Will all of your experience getting through and working through, as you continually are doing with your post-traumatic stress disorder, will you at some point turn your focus on helping others in the Southeast Asian community with similar,
Yes.
that have similar
yeah.
paths of yours?
We don't have a PTSD program for refugees in the city or in Southern California. We have in Northern California. I wanted to create a program to help not just refugees, but those dealing with PTSD here. We are starting to talk about it in Long Beach, but that's my goal, is to be an advocate for refugees with PTSD or just PTSD alone. And my book now can be the vehicle. So it's kind of like, if you want to, read about, it's a love story, but it's also about going through the healing process and continuing on with life. So that's why it's my sister really, how we came to the book. And the designer's here. She's a local artist, Norodom. Is she here? She designed my book, by the way, you guys.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. I saw her work at Fresno EOC. I said, can I contract you to do this? But it's always like this. The first book is called Royal Rebel. I never even had to think of the title because they already named me the Royal Rebel, the media and everybody. I'm the rebel because I'm trying to help those and that didn't have a voice, not because I'm a rebel. So then always the first book, we always talk about this. You always want your face or picture. If you see Prince Harry's first book, his face is on it. So your first book is always a picture of you, so they know what you look like. So you're in the first book. I'm trying to get those who want to be writers, and anyone can be a writer, by the way. Then the second book, I'm going to be like, okay, it's not going to be about my face anymore. This is Dave. This is the Royal Palace. This is the day he came to visit me. And we had to put Cambodia because people think it's Thailand. We had to put the Cambodian flag. So, and design, thank you so much, Naran. So I wanted to make it more Fresno, because we met here in Fresno. The accident happened in Fresno. And my very first book signing I wanted to do at Fresno State. So thank you.
Before we have a few minutes, we could probably talk all day to Soma, but I wanted to ask if there are any specific questions that anybody has about all the subjects that we've tried to cover today in this session, because I know Soma would love to address them. Yeah, there's a question right here.
It's not really a question.
Okay.
I know your family.
Oh, yes.
I know your sisters.
Yeah. Yes. Hi.
I've met your mom.
Oh my God, you know my mom.
Your mom would call me when Sina doesn't come home because I get
See?
anytime my children, her sister was the best friend of my daughter.
Oh, yes.
Anytime they have a drink, I get keys.
Yes.
To them at home. So your mom would look for her.
Yeah, my mom was just,
Yeah. But all I wanted to say is that this family, like her sister is now an attorney doing the same thing. She's doing.
my sister's supposed to be
Helping
here.
refugees.
My sister is an immigration lawyer in LA, and she was supposed to drive up here, but it couldn't because, but I'm having a book sign with my family June 10th in Long Beach, so. Thank you for coming
I
out.
just wanted to say,
Thank you.
you have a terrific family.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here and sharing
Thank
that
you,
with
yes.
us.
You want to get to the.
Are there any other questions? I know Soma's going to be here for a little while because she will be signing books. But before we do that, we're going to have a wrap. All the students, if the students are still here, and I think that many of the students had to
Go, yeah.
go back to class, But we do have a raffle, and we want to raffle off 2 books. And I'm going to let you pick the ticket,
Okay.
the lucky
let's see.
tickets.
Okay, so who's in it? Oh, the student. Okay, we have a student and the community leaders. Okay, got it. Okay. Yes. So should I pick out 2 or just do one at a time?
You can do one at a time. You can read it.
Okay. It's the last 3 number is 757. Did they leave?
Okay. You might need a few.
Okay. The last 3 number is 794. Did he probably leave?
Oh, just keep on trying.
Okay. We gotta be. Oh, yay! Woo! Right. Okay, make sure you get your book and then we'll sign it. I'll sign it back there. Thank
behind
you.
there.
Yeah. And then. Okay, we're gonna get.
There you go. And if you can,
Oh, and then
little
West
left,
Carol, I'll have
you
my
can
book
her
next
sign it.
week.
Okay.
You guys are.
And
I'll sign it there. I was telling my job, West Carol, I'll have my book next week. I'll sign it there. 677. Okay, one more. 761. Oh, yay! You're here all day.
I will do one drawing for this.
Thank you for.
There you go. And she'll come back and she'll sign it for you. And we'll do one book for one of our
leader.
community
Yes.
leaders. Don't you look.
I know, I'm.
You know all these.
Oh,
Oopsie.
is it the first one, right?
Yeah. There you go.
West Care, Salima. Yay! Is that her book? Okay. You want to write the last one?
Here we go. Before we close, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I would like to invite you all to come back in the fall. We have our dates for the session already selected. So those faculty here can put them in their syllabus if you don't mind. I would love that so that we can get the word out to our students. And for all the community members that were here today for this wonderful presentation, we hope that you'll come back and be a part of our Pay It Forward in the future. It's a wonderful experience for when our community members have a chance to really interact with our students. Before we go, though, Soma has asked me to read a passage from her book. And it was in her book, her very dearest friend, Amy, who lives in Georgia, was asked to comment on what she thought about when she saw, let me get back to that wall. When she sees the wall. And as Soma just told me, every anniversary, she does send pictures out of the wall of her and the flowers as a memorial to Dave and her life with Dave, her soulmate. And this is the passage that came back, or the note that came back to Soma after she received one of the most recent photos of the wall. And it's really if the wall could talk. So Soma sent Amy a photo of the flowers at the accident site located on Herndon Avenue. And Amy replied this: "My thoughts as I look at the wall, it's been repaired. You can tell it was broken. A scar on the wall left behind as a reminder that an event has made it change, and it will never be the same. Nor do we want the wall back to perfect, as it reminds us that we heal over time, but we'll never forget. Even painting the wall with a new color, under that paint, we'll know. Dave left his marking on our hearts, and nothing, not even paint, can take away that or remove it from our lives." So at that, I would like to thank you for coming, but most importantly, I would like to thank you, Soma, for sharing your story, for actually writing 2 books.
It's supposed to be a trilogy, like royal Rebel, Royal Love, and then I have one
And then
more
she has a
book.
cookbook coming out.
Yeah, because Dave said I have to write 3 books in my life, so
So the next one I think is going to be a cookbook.
it's called Royal
But you
Recipe.
need all of them because they're all really great. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you to the team.
So if you like, Soma's going to be in the back.
Let me freshen up.
She's going to freshen up for a second, then you can meet her in the back, and she would love to talk to you and sign a book.
Can we thank Cindy and Tina and the team one more time for this? They hosted. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So proud of them.
Okay, am I okay?